Welcome back to Pagan Valley, everyone. Tonight's video is a special one, as we aren't going to be talking about a recent or an ongoing horror series like we normally would. Instead, I felt like going back to the roots of the horror community. Everyone remembers their first frightening video on YouTube. For some, it could be a video in Marble Hornets or Everyman Hybrid. Others, it could be a classic like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, or even Local 58. The variety of horror on YouTube is like an ever-growing tree, branching out into different genres, topics, and styles for storytelling. However, every tree has a trunk, and tonight we are going to look at one of, if not the first, YouTube horror series that lays a foundation that other creators would use for years to come. And surprisingly, it is still a well talked about series today, as many of you have mentioned in my comments to do a video about it. So tonight we are going to take a little drive back in time to the very early days of YouTube and pay homage to a series that, in my opinion, started the horror series genre that we all know and love today. And that series would be one known as No Through Road. Searching No Through Road on YouTube will bring you to this channel called Indran Cole 3, the channel of the series creator, which was created in, wait for it, November of 2007, almost 2 years since YouTube first launched, and the earliest videos on the channel reflect that era of YouTube, where just normal people uploaded their own fun small home movies for friends and family to see. Which is uncanny itself considering what YouTube looks like today. But in the catalog of videos, there are 4 we are going to look at tonight. Now, before we dive into this series, I want to mention that I found an interview with the creator of No Through Road back in 2020. And based on his words, the not knowing of the series is what gives it its charm. So after we look back at these videos, I'm not going to get super deep into the details of what the story is because it's not really important. The creator mentions in this interview that a lot of these videos are improvised, going off vague direction based on some ideas the group came up with. And they created multiple videos whenever they went home from college because they thought it was fun. So in that spirit, I want to look at what this series does right, and how we have seen its influence on the platform today. But don't click off the video because we are still going to talk about the series itself. So let's start at the beginning with the viral horror video called No Through Road, uploaded on January 15th of 2009. The video description gives us some quick context before the video starts, saying on December 17, 2008, 4 17-year-old boys were found dead in their car at an abandoned farm 10 miles from their hometown. This video contains the unedited footage from the camera belonging to one of the boys, also found in the car. If you have any information regarding the footage, please contact us at the website given at the end of the video. When the video begins, we are given the MI5 British intelligence logo, and told that this footage was found at a crime scene where 4 boys from Stevenage went missing and were found dead at Broomhill Farm in the car they had been driving. The officers also thought the farm was abandoned, but when they found the bodies, they had noticed that the farm home was recently inhabited. When the camera footage begins, we can immediately notice the breakneck pace the creator has geniusly used to create tension in the video.
I don't know why the f we're doing this. Me and Ollie have got work at 8 in the morning, but we're driving about in his car because we're absolute twats.
Does that light make a difference?
Have you seen it on What the Week? Famous last words. Stingrays love foreplay.
Oh, they should sit in the corner.
Okay, I'm just going to stick this down here because I can't be fucked to keep moving it.
The camcorder clearly has some technical difficulties as other footage of the boys is spliced into the video. But we follow our 4 friends from the UK named James, Ollie, Stephen, and Zach. The boys are driving back home to Stevenage when the driver Ollie takes a country road to this place. Here at this tunnel, we are given a sign that says Broomhill Farm and that it's a private road. We also get a sort of a title card for the video that the camera seems to glitch out at. Also, the boys mention something strange, but in a way that seems extremely realistic.
Oh, it's cold.
Oh, that's no skeleton.
Broomhill Farm was in the news. I don't know what it was. I can't remember.
Have you ever seen this on? It gives me the shit so badly.
I don't think we should be here. It's like a private road or something.
The boys continue until they reach this sign that reads Bennington and Waiton, before pulling over to try and find where they are. They mention that their phones and GPS aren't working now, and they've been driving for over an hour. They also find a dead rabbit and say that it's perfectly preserved. But shortly after, the boys have their first encounter with the threat around them and begin to realize the puzzling situation they are in.
Let me get back in. No idea.
Sexy little bitch, isn't he? Look at that ass.
What is he? Steve! Get back in!
Drive! What's the matter, man?
Drive! What the fuck is the matter? What are you saying? Stop being a brick, man. This isn't funny.
Oh, there was someone, and he was like wearing some sort of mask. Really want to get home now.
Another car for like an hour. More than that. It's scary how it's kind of my responsibility to get us home as well.
Jesus.
Every corner feels like the same.
It's so familiar, isn't it?
It's not really safe.
Have you not got a signal? No, it's a sign. It's a sign. Okay, slow down.
And it's... What is it? Bennington again. Oh. What?
Nah, if it was.
No.
Oh my god.
I know.
Wait, stop. No.
Yeah, no, we've just gone in a little circle, so it's... Bennington's in the middle, that's all it is. Bennington is to the...
We've been going in a straight line.
No, we haven't. It's been left, I swear. Absolutely swear. No, we didn't take any turns. No, it doesn't matter. The road is curved. Relax, man.
No, it's...
Do you want to go to Bennington to prove it? Do we turn
Stop
around?
saying man. It's like... That's like your fucking... What?
Why not?
Oh, come... No.
The boys begin to drive around again, this time sounding far more frustrated about the road they are trying to get off of. They also try messing with the radio to try and find out where they are by finding a nearby radio station, where we get the iconic horror sound that some of you may have heard before. The song My First Lover by Gillian Welch, stuck on loop during the part of the song that sings Quicksilver Girl.
You're fucking driving that on that
No!
Steve, I fell asleep. You've just driven past it again.
No, we're not fucking with you.
That's horrible. Hazards.
Stop fucking doing it on the back of my chair. It's so annoying.
I'm checking that sign. It cannot be the same.
Just go. I don't want to stay here.
But...
Oh, Chris, stop. Look. Oh.
Ollie, I don't want to drive down this road anymore. We've done it 3 times and we haven't got anywhere.
Okay, should we try that way then? Let's try and go towards Watton.
You put the radio on?
Yeah, but might as well. Hang on a sec, Ollie. I can't get the seat, mate.
What is this?
Oh, it's like the scariest thing ever.
What station was that?
Pirate FM.
I don't know. It's never been.
So it was Pirate. That was from.
Does it, like, worry you guys that we haven't seen another car?
But eventually they find a roundabout and a sign that tells them they are on their way back home. But the boys celebrate a little too early, as the private road at Broomhill Farm isn't done with them yet.
Stevenage. Welcome to Stevenage.
Wow.
Hey guys.
Stevenage.
Hey guys.
Last.
Turn the lights on.
What the fuck?
How did we get here? We were just on the
Just reverse, Ollie. Reverse. Go on.
What do we do?
Just don't sit here. I don't want to sit.
Now sounding defeated, we get the last part of the video. And the fast-paced editing really begins to shine here, and we see why this went viral all the way back in the late 2000s.
Reverse, go on.
What do we do?
Just don't sit here, I don't want to sit. Oh, for fuck's sake.
James?
Point the camera at me.
James, just give me the...
What are you doing? Turn it back on.
It's not me. I can't.
Turn the bloody lights on! What the fuck? What? No! Turn! What are you turning on? Fucking idiot! Turn it! Fucking lock it! Fucking door! Turn the fucking engine on! She fucking... Beans. Cool.
And that was No Through Road, a single video filmed by a group of friends who saw a tunnel near their hometown and thought up of a fun horror premise that I believe started everything we see now on YouTube. And after watching so many horror series across the platform, you can really see how all of them incorporate some aspect of what No Through Road created, just as 4 friends, a camera, and a creepy road. But I'll dive more into this later because a couple years later, the creators would come back to create a sequel to their viral video. And I, like most people, didn't know there were 3 more videos, so watching these is making me feel like a little kid again watching YouTube videos on my family's old computer in the basement. So let's move on to the second video, simply called No Through Road 2. Now, in the previous video, the context was that the police released the found footage on the camera that the boy Steven was using in the first video. But the remainder of our videos are like a one long follow-up to what happened in the first. The description reads, "This is footage from the first of 2 tapes procured by the police following the event named NTR2. I can only hope they do not catch me before I obtain the second tape." So these videos are coming from a news source who is uploading the footage that police don't want getting out. And spoiler alert, we never find out who this is, it's just a way to contextualize the next 3 parts of the series. But that hasn't stopped other people from creating theories about who this uploader is, but it's not really important and it's never answered in these videos. But this video begins with a new character named Dave, filming James, one of the boys who actually survived the attack by the masked man at the end of the last video. James goes back to the road and shows how that every year since the attack, he has been leaving flowers for his friends who passed away. Now this video is much different than the last one because it decides to take a much slower pace. This video, if I had to compare it to something I've already covered, is a lot similar to Paranormal Paranoids, where things can be seen in the background to help build up some of that tension. So keep an eye out when I show you some clips here in a second. But the two are driving along the country roads when they begin to notice that despite not being on the private property for Broom Hill Farm, they begin to circle around the same intersection.
Been told so many times it's a bit pointless.
As day turns to night, the two start to grow frustrated as their phones won't get a signal and they can't seem to escape the road in front of the Broom Hill Farm. However, every time they stop, something is watching them from a distance. I'm not going to zoom in on anything, but I will show you the clips where I found something watching James and Dave. Try to catch what I saw. Yeah, those last two aren't as subtle, but that's what adds to the horror. Like I said, this one is taking a new approach by slowly building things up. And boy, does it really lead to something. While stopped and trying to figure out what to do, this happens.
We could try turning it off and on again.
That could work.
Oh, cameras. So, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have come, but I felt like I owed it to them.
I reckon it's a good thing you came back.
I just had to pay my respects.
Do you think it was worth it?
No.
Ah! Shit!
Stephen, wake up! What's going on? Stephen, what's wrong? Stephen. He's coming around. He's waking up. He's waking up. Stephen, it's okay. Stephen, calm down. It's alright.
Where am I? Where? James!
Stephen.
Oh, James!
Where have you been?
James, you got away!
Yeah, I got away. Where have you been?
Dave!
Hi, Steve.
Dave, what's Dave?
It's okay, calm down.
Where have you been?
Alright.
Where is
It's okay,
he?
don't worry.
Where is he?
We're in my car. Where's who? Where have you been?
Steven, the cameraman in the last video, has also survived the attack a few years ago. However, he says that when he escaped, he ran back through the tunnel and back to the road off the Broom Hill property, where he found a running car. The car that his friend James is in years later, meaning that time is being manipulated by the tunnel on the Broom Hill property, and Steven is now with a present-day James. It's crazy that what should be a complex idea is actually pretty easy to follow in this video, but things are going to get really weird from here on out. In No Through Road 3, our person outside the series who is recovering the tapes says that this is the first part of the last tape that was found by police. And when it begins, we immediately feel the tonal shift since James has found his friend Steven near Broom Hill Farm. For almost a minute, the three are all silent as they continue to drive around the farm, unable to escape. Breaking the silence, James says his phone is ringing finally, and immediately answers it for help.
Hello?
Who was it?
I don't know, it was just an
withheld number.
What did they say?
They didn't say anything.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. Especially if we think back to the first video when the car's radio became distorted, just like James's phone. And by the look on James's face, he knows what's coming after them again. When they return to the intersection they keep circling back to, James attempts to change it up by turning down the second road, and immediately going down it just brings them back to the same intersection. Thoroughly defeated now, James keeps driving until the three are finally met face to face with the masked man from the first video. And Steven, who had already survived the man once, says what everyone who has watched the video was thinking.
What do we do?
Drive.
Go, 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 go!
So at the end, driving through the masked man immediately transported the three back to the no-through road that started it all. And before our video ends, the distortions give us this weird symbol. It's one we haven't seen before, but we will see it a lot in the last video. So let's go ahead and jump right into it because it's pretty wild. Now, our person recovering the tapes has perfectly summarized this last video in the description, simply saying, "I don't know what to think anymore." The video begins after the last with James, Steven, and Dave. They are out of their stopped car past the tunnel and trying to figure out what to do. Then Dave and his camera see the Broomhill farmhouse in the distance with the door open. The boys decide to go on in and they find this. After looking around, James and Steven take a mask from the house before returning to their car, where Steven says something very interesting.
Dave. Is he? How does he know these things we said?
Maybe he saw the video.
What video? What video?
What?
He's noticed us yet. We have to move. We have to move or we'll see.
Shh, someone's coming. Guys, what is that? What is that? Who is it?
I don't know.
What is it?
While hiding from the mask, the three saw a new car come through the tunnel, and immediately James, who had just come from his attack, recognizes the repeating song on the radio, Quicksilver Girl. Now this is where the time loop gets really wacky, because James takes his mask and leaves Steven and Dave saying that he has no choice. Left alone, Steven puts it together that if the first Steven to enter the time loop had died, but he survived, then that would mean that something saved him. So in order to continue the time loop, then the Steven with Dave will have to save the third Steven who just entered the tunnel. We then see the plan get set into motion with our Steven chasing off after the newer version of himself. Left alone, Dave is spotted by the masked man, but the man ignores him and goes to the car. And here is where the final twist occurs in No Through Road, to make this even more difficult to follow. Take a look and see if you can tell what happened.
What are you doing?
I got this from the shack,
Why?
so he doesn't recognize me.
Steven, what are you doing? Steven!
He can't see me. Oh, he can't see me. I think I'm okay. Gotta get used to the car. Gotta get used to the car and get you out of here.
Wait! Wait!
Steven? Steven! Steven!
And that's the end of No Through Road. So I think you all at least deserve some kind of explanation of what happened in the last part of the video. Well, I don't have all the answers, which is kind of the point of the series, but I can give you a quick rundown of where the series ends in my opinion. To help make this a little easier, I'm going to label our characters with a number in the order of when they went down the No Through Road and entered the time loop. So we will have a James 1, 2, and 3, and a Steven 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So the original 4 entered the No Through Road and are attacked by the masked man. All would die except for James 1 because the masked man dragged James away from the car and let him live. When returning back to Broom Hill Farm with his friend Dave, James 1 finds Steven 2, who is the sole survivor of the second group to go through the time loop. We know this Steven is different because when asked about a camera he had, Steven 2 says, "What camera?" meaning this version of him wasn't recording the events like in the first video. At this point, James 1 and Steven 2 are in between events at the tunnel, but that doesn't stop the masked man from spying on them from a distance, until he steps out into the middle of the road and sends them back into the tunnel. There, James 1 and Steven 2 find the mysterious shack with multiple masks in it. Both take one. When the third group arrives and is confronted by the masked man, James 1 has already figured out what to do, but doesn't tell his friend Steven, who's the second Steven. Steven 2 also figures out what to do and explains it to Dave, saying that if he survived, then that means Steven 3 also has to survive. So that's what Steven 2 is going to go do, and leaves Dave in front of the car. And here's a twist in my theory, that James 1 has been the masked man all along, as we see the masked man go to the car to drag James 3 to safety, preserving his survival in the time loop. However, this last event that is captured by Dave is the cause of this time loop that keeps repeating. When Steven 2 goes to save Steven 3, Steven 3 thinks he is the masked man who attacked his friends just seconds ago, which leads to Steven 3 using his camera to kill Steven 2, which was the footage we saw in the first video. Now that Steven 2 is dead, Steven 3 now becomes the Steven who ran through the tunnel and was saved by James years later. So at all the points we saw the masked man in the background, it was actually James watching and eventually forcing the time loop to occur again so that he keeps surviving. This would leave the police at the end of each event to find 4 bodies. James, who was saved by a future version of himself, a past version of Steven who was killed by the present Steven to escape, and the 2 other friends. And what proves that James is the masked man all along is that in the farmhouse there are phrases written on the wall that James wrote there for the next group in the time loop to find. Meaning that when James was inside the house, he was reading the writing of his future self, which is why James asks, "How does he know the things we said?" Now, this is my very rough interpretation of No Through Road, and it doesn't solve all the questions. And like I said at the beginning of this video, it's still a widely talked about series, and there are lots of different theories out there that dive deeper into the smaller details of the series. And while it's tempting to go down that path, I just kept thinking back to that interview with the creator who basically said that the series was designed to leave people asking questions. Which makes me think that there isn't a definite true answer to all the questions the series created. For 2009, No Through Road was truly groundbreaking for a lot of reasons. The most obvious one was that there was this gap between the found footage juggernaut, the Blair Witch Project, and the rise of found footage style internet series that would come later. Even the creator states that their initial video was inspired by the Blair Witch Project. However, I would argue that No Through Road is even better than that movie because of one reason: the medium the faked footage is presented in. When Blair Witch was released, people saw it in the theater where they are constantly reminded by their surroundings that this is a movie, it's not real, no matter how real the events on the screen may seem to them. On the contrary, No Through Road was uploaded on YouTube in the days where people posted family home movies pretty much entirely. So when someone on their computer comes across a video saying this was footage presented by the police in the aid of solving a mystery, people during that time were inclined to believe it was real. And a lot of that was due to the improvised acting that sold everyone on the idea that everything that the camera filmed was real. and we see a lot of similar elements in horror series on YouTube today. While recent series develop and expand the complexity of their stories, they all share that core foundation that No Through Road laid out. Not for every web series, but for a lot of them. Things like implementing the use of the YouTube platform into the series itself to ground the story into the real world, which was done in No Through Road with the use of the police asking for help. A crucial part of that foundation that would lead to the alternate reality games being hosted on the YouTube platform. Another element is the use of background horror to build tension, which was common in stylized movies, but in the found footage style can be extremely unnerving. We looked at a few scenes in No Through Road where the masked man watched from a distance, and this is the same usage of the background that has been in a lot of popular series in the next coming series like Marble Hornets and Everyman Hybrid. And the last element I want to mention is the authentic acting that sells a series on being real. And the creator in that interview kind of gives instructions on how to do that if you want your series to look like it all really happened. And that's not to get too bogged down in writing every piece of dialogue between characters and let side conversations and interactions happen naturally, like they were improvised. The best one I can think of was the Daisy Brown ARG back in 2017-2018. Where we get a lot of personal conversations between Daisy and her camera in order to build up our relationship with the main character. It's also probably in my top 10 favorite horror projects on the internet, but that's a video for a different day. Like the creator said in the interview, it was lightning in a bottle, but that usage of the YouTube platform would inspire so many future creators in different ways. New premises would arise and expand the possibilities of what individuals with nothing but a camera and a computer could create. After looking back on this series, it's nearly impossible to watch the newest horror series on YouTube without finding aspects that were used in No Through Road. And its legacy on YouTube is still surprising and mysterious to this day, as it really does hold up. Hell, I would even say it's damn near timeless after almost 2 decades. But these were just my thoughts on the series, and I wanted to share them with you because I don't think a lot of people younger than me remember No Through Road and its impact. So I'm happy that those few of you now know some of the history of this part of YouTube. And as we push on into new series to talk about, we can always think back to one of the great series that started everything that has and has yet to come on to this site. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. If you'd like to see more content, make sure to like and subscribe down below, and while you're down there, leave a comment with your thoughts on No Through Road. Do you remember when it was viral, or have you never heard of it until now? Also, make sure to check out some other videos I have done on other famous horror series on YouTube in the YouTube Horror Explained playlist on my channel page. And if you want to help support future videos, then there is a link to the Pagan Valley Patreon where becoming a member will get your name at the end of the videos. Also, follow me on Twitter if you want to stay updated on the most recent happenings with Pagan Valley. With that, this has been Pagan Valley, and I wish you all a good evening.